I believe we're living in a world that's more disconnected than ever. And I'm not talking about the connection you have with the people around you, but about the connection you have with yourself and with your own truth. We have so much input around us, especially when it comes to social media. We are constantly being told who we are, who we should be, what we should be doing with our life. It always needs to be more, it needs to be faster, a bigger house, a bigger car, more money, a better physique. Everyone needs to become an entrepreneur, everyone needs to become a millionaire. And we just start running with these stories as if it's the truth. But have you ever paused for a moment and have you reflected upon all of these stories and what everyone is shoving in your face? Is this actually in alignment with your truth? In what you want to feel in life, what you want to experience, what you want to build and create in life? Is this in alignment with the deepest truth inside of you? And this is where I believe the disconnect happens. And this is one of the reasons why I went into a monastery for a few days. And in this video, I'll also share my experience of also why I went into the monastery, what my experience was like, and also the main lesson that I learned from being there. Because I'm a highly self-motivated guy. For me, it's very easy to take a lot of action and to challenge myself. But for me, it's difficult to stop, to pause, to rest, to recover. Because I'm always doing more and more and more. I always want to go faster. And recently I had a conversation with a lady that I started working with. And she's an incredible lady. And she asked me a very basic question, as in, how do you feel? So I was describing how I felt, and if you don't know, I'm going through an illness now for 2.5 years. I'm still going through this process. So when she asked me that question, I started to describe the pain that I felt in my body, the discomfort here. I felt an uncomfortable feeling there. And when I was explaining all of this, she paused me and she asked me, right now you're explaining what your body feels like, but how do you feel? And for some reason, she caught me completely off guard with this question. So I started to go inward to see, okay, to receive the answer, how do I actually feel? And I felt nothing. I didn't feel anything. There was no answer that came up when I was going inward. And this is also when I realized, like, I don't know. I don't know what I feel like. And this immediately showed me the disconnection with myself, because I thought I was very self-aware and that I lived life with a strong, mindful intention. But this small interaction immediately showed me the disconnect that was with myself. And I explored with her, of course, how to recreate that connection. And the main answer is stillness. I need to detach from everything in life. And with stillness, I don't mean a 30-minute meditation sometime, because these things were something that I was already doing. I needed to completely disconnect from the life that I was living, because otherwise I keep on running and running and running. And what I felt was I was running past myself. And I lost myself in the whole process of just creating more and going faster. So this is why I booked only 2 days in a monastery, because I know I love to go to these extremes. So when I heard something like this, I immediately wanted to book a place in the woods for 2 weeks to completely disconnect myself. But I made the intentional decision to only book 2 days in a monastery. And a monastery type of place, I'll also show some pictures maybe in this video. And I felt a lot of discomfort of doing this. The idea of disconnecting like that, I did not want to go there. It was also in a very busy period of my life. And I was already behind in work. I had so much to do. So everything inside of me did not want to go. And that's especially because of all of these feelings. That's why I needed to go to a place like this. Because I also believe we need to experience these contrasts in life. If you're constantly running, if you're constantly creating and creating, you need the opposite. You need a space to completely disconnect. If you are using your phone for an X amount of hours a day, you need to have days without a phone at all. You need to experience the opposites of what you're usually doing to strongly connect to your truth. So I went into the monastery with no phone, or at least I used my phone for pictures, but on airplane mode, no Wi-Fi. I didn't have a book with me. I didn't journal. I didn't have music. I didn't listen to podcasts. I didn't work out. I didn't do anything. No people. It was just me and my thoughts. And all I could do was sit in my room and look at the wall or meditate, or I could walk in the forest. These were the only things that I could do. And I went into this with the expectation that my mind would go completely crazy, and that I would feel restless and the need and the desperate need to create something and do something. But the moment I got onto the train towards this place, I immediately felt at peace, which was very strange for me. Like I felt the detachment that happened. I expected myself to be attached to all these things, but there was an immediate detachment. And when I got to the place, I, of course, met the people that were running the place. They showed me my room and a little bit around the building. And that's when the initial day I started to explore. Just explore the building, explored the forest for a little bit. And I was still at peace. I thought I was doing something wrong because everybody told me as well that I was going to feel restless and that it's going to be uncomfortable. But I didn't feel any of this. And then there was this moment where I got a completely different experience, because I went back to my room after just exploring the forest for a bit. And when I sat down to meditate, I closed my eyes and immediately I fell asleep. Like my head started falling down and I had to intentionally keep myself awake, but I just couldn't. I had to go to bed because I was so exhausted. And when I woke up, I tried to meditate again, but I just couldn't. I couldn't meditate because I felt this deep, deep exhaustion. My body felt heavy, my legs felt heavy. And I went into this experience with only one question, or a few questions related to each other, which is, who am I? But also, what do I feel like? Because this is where the disconnect happened. Like I wanted to be connected again with myself. And this is what I was experiencing, which was very, very uncomfortable. And the second day in the morning, of course, I had my breakfast. I went out for a 4-hour walk in the forest on a hike trail. But of course, I can't keep walking for the whole day. So there are loads of moments where I just sit still and I stare at the ants on the ground, or I stare at the grass that's moving. And I went back to my room again, and I felt again this deep, deep exhaustion. When I was doing nothing, when I had zero input, that's when I got confronted with what I actually felt like. And this was the main lesson that I also learned from this whole experience. Because I wanted a stronger connection with myself, and now I realize that I don't know what the rest feels like. I don't know how to completely detach and disconnect from life. Because what I was doing throughout the days was resting on paper. People tell you to go for a walk. People tell you to just do some breath exercises or to meditate. And I was doing all of these things. I was doing the resting that looked good on paper, but I wasn't truly resting because my mind was constantly somewhere else. I wasn't completely disconnected and detached from the things that I was doing and creating in life. So even though I was meditating, I couldn't wait to finish the meditation to go back to work. I was just doing the meditation because this is what you have to do. But this was not rest. And the moment I completely disconnected and detached from the life that I was living, that's when I realized, like, shit, I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to rest. So this was one of the main lessons that I learned from completely disconnecting from life. And this is only the beginning, because I want to also create some more space, more days where I completely detach as a detox, to also create a stronger connection with myself. Because when I got back from just these 2 days, my productivity went through the roof. And in the first place, I was exhausted coming back, but after a good night's sleep, my productivity was incredible. And this is also when I realized the power of taking rest and how having true rest is actually benefiting your productivity. Because in my mind, I had the story as well that I need to be doing things to be productive. I need to be working hands-on with the thing that I want to be building and creating to be productive. And resting to me didn't feel productive. That's why it's so difficult to wrap my head around it. And with this experience, I experienced the complete opposite. The importance of rest and recovery when it comes to productivity. So when you also look at your life, how many times have you created the space to do nothing? And not just for a few minutes, but for a prolonged period of time. a few days, maybe even a whole week where you disconnect from all that you're doing and you have zero input. Just imagine what it feels like if you would remove your phone from your life for a few days. And you're not talking to people, you're not messaging people, you're not on social media. And this is, I believe, crucial for everyone to experience, because when I talk about disconnection, the real thing that I mean is like a disconnection from our heart. Is what you truly want, who you truly want to be in life, how you want to show up, what you want to be building. Because we create a life for ourselves and we think this is the truth. We think this is how I want to be living life, or you're living life in alignment with the expectations that others have of you. And no wonder we constantly feel fear and stress and anxiety and all this tension in all that we're doing, because it needs to be more. I need to be this person. This is what I should be doing. I'm afraid of the judgment of others if I would live in alignment with my truth. So what are we doing? This is where I believe it's so important to disconnect and to align yourself with your truth. And this is something you don't do with your mind. You need to experience yourself. This is an experience. Once you feel yourself, that's when you can align yourself. You can't think yourself to these places. You need to disconnect from the input around you to be able to connect strongly to your truth. So this was in short my experience by going into the monastery. Like, the biggest lesson is that I don't know what rest feels like. I don't know how to rest actually. Even though I know what it looks like on paper, this is not working for me. Apparently, I need to disconnect for a longer period of time. And if you've had a similar experience where you had a detox from life and you did the complete opposite of what you used to be doing, I would love to hear your experience as well in the comments. The lessons that came up for you, the experience that you had by completely disconnecting. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.